When discussing who has the greatest arms in bodybuilding, Sergio Oliva has to be considered. Look at the forearm, the bicep, and the tricep. I'm sure there is a large group of people that consider this arm to be the greatest in bodybuilding history. But I am sure there is probably just as large of a group, or maybe even larger, that would say it is time to turn the page. Get with the 1990s. It's hammer time. It is time for Lee Priest. I mean, who could argue with this arm being the greatest of all time? Well, today we are going to do a comparison between these two legends. Of course, we're going to do a regular bodybuilding comparison, but first, let's look at these arms. Who has the better arm? Sizing, of course, it's impossible when comparing these two types of pitchers, obviously, but we're looking at shape, density, separation, size and relevance to the rest of their physique. Sergio's arms are huge. You could not plug any more mass onto those babies. But take a look at Lee's. Lee has perhaps more separation, more of a peak on those biceps, and forearms. I don't think that anybody would touch these guys in terms of forearm development. Maybe Phil Heath. But probably not. Now, one thing about having great forearms, you can pull off a move like this. Well, that is if you have a tiny waistline as well. Good luck pulling off a victory pose or a cobra pose, whatever you want to call it. It's the Lee Priest or the Sergio Oliva is what it is. And like I said, good luck trying to hit this if you got puny little forearms or a big wide waistline. Obviously, Sergio's waistline, stuff of legends, beating Lee Priest in that aspect. And Lee, he had a tiny waistline as well. But I mean, Sergio in another level altogether. But look at the arms. Look at the forearms. Using these two pictures, I would say Lee might even have Sergio's number in that aspect. So, who has the greatest arms of all time? These guys, both of these guys. They competed at such a different time that it is very difficult to compare the two. And here's the front double biceps. And that's the thing. You can't take these too serious. These are for fun. It is comparing two of the greatest physiques of all time that never would have been compared. In their prime, that is. Or Sergio at the tail end of his career. He could have did a pose down with Lee when Lee was just a teenager. He was pretty jacked, I would suggest. Now, pitcher angles alone are going to make this unfair. Sergio, along with Arnold, you can throw Arnold in that category. These pictures of them, the cameraman was way down low. And honestly, I think it made them look a little bit bigger, a little bit thicker than they actually were. Now, I'm not making excuses. I have some evidence to back me up a little bit. Here is a straight-on shot, which you would see for guys from the 90s or later on or nowadays. It's more of a fair comparison. Now, you see the physiques. Sergio doesn't look quite so giant next to Lee. He is taller, of course. Look at the size of Lee's arms. I mean, those are cannonballs. Cannonballs. Taking nothing away from Sergio. Of course, this is 1972. And from what I understand, they made them stand around for quite a while back then. I think they gave Arnold a luxury room where he could pump up properly, and everybody else had to stand out in the cold. Well, I'm making that up a little bit, but probably not far from the truth. Look at the condition. Now, that is one reason why you cannot compare a 1990s guy with a bodybuilder from the 70s, 60s, 70s, where Sergio is from. The conditioning alone. I mean, you're going to say, well, Lee Priest, he's the superior bodybuilder. Well, of course. He's from 1997. His conditioning was top plus compared to these guys. But it is, I have to yet again say, it is a fun comparison. You guys want to have some fun? Could you imagine Dorian Yates, if Dorian Yates had the arms of Lee Priest. Ah, look at that. Yeah, you're having some fun now, aren't you? Well, I suppose his legs look pretty small now, don't they? So I guess we could give him somebody else's quads. Whose quads are these? Who belongs to them, or who do these quads belong to? Whatever the proper way to say that is. Who? Let me know in the comment section below. And you'll get a gold star. You have to go buy your gold star yourself. But anyway, go back to the real comparison. The front lat spread. Now, this is an early rendition of Lee Priest. 1994, if I'm not mistaken. Now, Sergio, obviously, is known for that tiny little wee waistline. But look at Lee's. Is that not a tiny waistline as well? And blooms up like a flower. Unbelievable. And again, I have to point to the camera angles of these older pictures. I mean, this one might not be too bad. Obviously, Sergio looked great in this shot anyway. But just to be fair, I did find this one of Lee Priest. And you can see he's being gifted the same angles here. So there is front lat spreads of certain bodybuilders, Arnold included, that just look unbelievable. And yes, it does take a good front lat spread to begin with to look like this, but wow, Lee Priest more than holding his own against the great Sergio Oliva. Unbelievable. Not too many physiques as good as these two guys. Now turn to the side. You may take note, Sergio, he's hitting the pose totally different than anybody else hits this. I guess Arnold kind of hit it like this. Very difficult to judge between the two, apples versus oranges. Sergio's chest, I mean, it's pretty impressive, I have to say. The far pack in particular, more so than the close pack. Both guys, tremendous big arms. Again, very different from each other. Different, or hard to judge. Lower half, obviously, Lee Priest, he looks bigger, the display's much better, and conditioning is going to be on another level altogether. So, side chest, kind of a write-off. What about the back? The back is even more difficult to judge between these two guys. First of all, this is a photo shoot of Sergio. Very difficult to actually find a rear lat spread on stage of this man. Interesting, because it seems that he has an excellent pose. Lee Priest, in terms of the comparison anyway, I think he's getting the lower camera treatment in this one. A little bit lower. He looks very thick. Looks twice as heavy as Sergio. So, having said that, go to the rear double biceps pose. I believe this is the 1994 version of Lee again. Definitely respectable back development and respectable conditioning as well. Now Sergio, he's getting that special camera angle treatment again. But look at the V-taper. We can't ignore the fact that this guy had a dream wrapped in a blanket in terms of his V-taper even from behind. Now watch Lee's arms here. See that? 1997. Wow, from 94 to 97, his arms. So if you IFBB bodybuilders nowadays, I noticed, not a lot of good peaky, freaky biceps around. John Jewett, a couple of guys, but Akeem Williams, but not a whole lot of them. Perhaps you could message Lee Priest. Give him a little phone call, ask him how he got his arms so big in those couple of years. Very impressive. Now, just for fun, because that's what this comparison is for, here is the both of them at the end of their careers. I believe their last time competing. Did Sergio compete after the Olympia? 85? I don't think he did. This is 2013 for Lee Priest. He went ahead and won the NABA Pro Universe. Or was just the NABA Universe? I think it was the NABA Universe. I think they didn't have the NABA Pro that year. Something of that nature. Anyway, you can see condition, not bad for Sergio. Probably his best. I don't know if he was peeled or what people call peeled back in the 70s, 60s, but he was not bad here. And in terms of Lee Priest, who cares about striated glutes? Well, Lee Priest has striated glutes here. Very good condition, maybe the best I've seen from Lee on his last time competing. So kudos to him. Go to the abs and thigh. Now, when it comes to bodybuilding, you hear the term apples and oranges, bananas and nectarines, or whatever. Two completely different physiques makes it impossible to judge. Look at the V-taper on Sergio. This is the only abs and thigh picture that I could find of Sergio, by the way. It's him in 1984. He made his comeback in the IFBB. He was competing in other federations. It wasn't like he just decided to compete again. He was already competing, and his conditioning was improving, but I don't know if his overall muscle mass. I think they took what they took, and then that's it. They weren't taking anything else. And the rest of the young pups, I'm sure they were increasing their dosages and changing their training techniques and dosages of food, I meant. Food. What were you guys thinking? Anyway, he was good and separated in the abs. Not bad at all. But Lee Priest, that is one other level. 2 or 3 other levels altogether. I mean, Lee, him and Sean Ray were in leagues of their own. It's a shame they were not buddies. But I mean, who could be buddies with Sean Ray? The way he goes on and on. But I mean, that has nothing to do with anything, I guess, for this comparison. And here's the most muscular. Crab position for both. Was never a huge fan of the way Sergio hit it. It was his own way, I guess. Somewhat Arnold Schwarzenegger-like. Them two guys. Along the same, physique. They had the same conditioning. Arnold started to get ahead a little bit in condition. Sergio somewhat stayed the same, and that's probably why he didn't continue on winning the Olympia titles. Probably. Well, might have been politics involved as well. And that's it. That's it, guys. A fun comparison. I do not hand out awards or say, this guy's beating this guy when it's a guy from the 70s versus a guy from early 2000s, late 90s, mid 90s, and Lee Priest. I think 2001 here. There's a set of drums in the back. There's a live band. Could have been Mike Menzer. Just a little inside joke there. Menzer playing with a live band one time. But I did decide to end with these 2 photos because each picture is accentuating both Sergio and Lee Priest's strong points. Obviously, Sergio's waistline to lat ratio. Nobody in bodybuilding had that. That's incredible. And he has the giant wheels. There's been, Brian Buchanan's with little tiny waistlines, but they didn't have that big giant set of quads like Sergio. And forearms, unbelievable. But then who could compete with Lee's hard, grainy nature, the density of his muscles, and, condition-wise, muscle-wise, that's his strong point. Sergio's not touching that, and Lee's not touching Sergio's hourglass. But in both cases, Sergio had some muscle mass, and Lee, tiny little wee waistline as well. When he wasn't off-season, packing burgers into that meat locker of his. I'm just joking, Lee. He got her pretty thick in the off-season. He always dialed it in, though. Didn't he? That's right. Hit thumbs up on the video. Have a great one, guys.